5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning, Wilfrid Laurier University. Today is Monday, March 18th, 2013, and I am Lauren Bates. This is Channel 4 News. Top stories today include naming of the brand new Pope in the Vatican. After much deliberation, the white smoke has risen, which states that cardinals have elected a new Pope to lead over the 1 billion Catholics across the globe. Welcome, Pope Francis. And in breaking news, I am getting insight that the explanation regarding the integration and understanding of society has finally been discovered. Finally, there's a theoretical framework which describes the social construction of societal life. Emile Durkheim, a French theorist, has discovered the scientific way in which society can work in a cohesive and functional way. Durkheim describes a new era of thought throughout his concept of individualism, which he states is not only the best, but the only way in which society can function. This is a revolutionized idea that has become popularized throughout the Enlightenment era that serves as a host for many societal differences and uniqueness among all of its members. Durkheim, born in France, is a well-educated man who speaks of morality and society throughout his publication, The Division of Labor, and is currently trying to establish a new social science known as sociology. I'm going to hand it over to a reporter on scene with Durkheim himself. Thank you, and over to you, Chanel.
I'm here in France with Emile Durkheim, enthusiastic to be able to get his intel firsthand and pick his brain apart regarding his new concept of societal norms. Hello, Dr. Durkheim, and how are you today?
I'm great, Chanel, but please call me Emile.
Okay, Emile. First of all, I just wanted to get a general idea of what you mean by the term individualism. Even though this term is a newer theory, people still seem to interpret it in many different ways since it's very complex. Can you please explain this to me?
Well, to me, individualism is about the right to free will and thought. This framework is my attempt to explain the ways in which people are not only integrated within society, but also a general understanding of people and their societies.
I see. And exactly where has this individualism come from? How did you synthesize such a different theory compared to how collective life used to be?
Individualism came from the transition from pre-modern to modern society. Many changes led society to change from a mechanical type of solidarity that includes complete collectiveness and a homogeneous population into a newer organic form of solidarity which highlights individual differences within society.
So you're saying that even though people experience differences within society and are all unique, they are still able to form a collective social bond? How is this even possible?
Every person has an obligation to society, which is what keeps society held together. This relationship between society and the individual is based on morals and obligations and not contractual laws, and this is what creates social solidarity.
Within your writing, Individualism and Intellects, you oppose the concept of utilitarianism. Why would you oppose something that is defined as the largest possible balance of pleasure over pain for society? Wouldn't this be the best way for society to function?
You see, utilitarianism is a contrasting form of individualism compared to what I see as most optimal, which is moral individualism. I disagree with utilitarianism because it reduces society to nothing more than a tool for production and exchange. This threatens social justice and creates unjust conditions for some. Although it does help many, it also represses many others at the same time.
I see. You touch upon idealists in your work. How has their work influenced your theory?
Idealists are those who have established the Declaration of the Rights of Man, which is embedded within our moral doctrine throughout society.
Great. I see that Kant and Rousseau have had a large influence on your writing. Can you tell me how you applied their theories to your own?
Well, first off, I oppose Kant since he says that abstract forms of humanity are what determine behavior. But I believe that these situations instead are negative when they reflect somebody's class or caste. Therefore, I agree with Rousseau's thoughts because his ideas reflect upon individual will and thought, which is the whole basis of individualism.
Along these idealist theories, the concept of religion seems to be a large component throughout your work. Since you use this as a basic idea to explain individualism, can you please tell me about it?
In religion, man is both a representation of the worshipper and God. This puts the individual on the same level of authority as the sacred, essentially making himself sacred. This sacredness can be described by la personne humaine, which highlights that eventually within our society, the only thing that humans will have in common is humanity itself. In other words, society is strictly reduced to humanity. Man will love and worship no other than himself. This notion of humanity is what creates social solidarity. The only thing needed is that everyone has the same goals and ideas, which comes from their beliefs, even if these beliefs are interpreted differently.
Well, do you have a name for this complex theory?
I call it the religion of humanity. Although this concept may seem contradictory since everyone has different values and beliefs, it in fact works because everyone receives dignity from a higher source, which is humanity itself. After all, this extended is the glorification not of the self, but of the individual in general.
Sounds like a suitable name for such a theory. You state in your writings that along with the religion of humanity, individualism cannot function without intellectual ties. Is this true?
Well, indisputably, freedom of thought is the first of the freedoms, because everybody is entitled to their own thoughts and opinions, and everyone should have the right to the potential knowledge that they can access or gain. This can only be done through the respect of authority. Every society needs some source of power, which is humanity again in itself. Cohesion of a society comes from the support of authority, which also helps to maintain individual rights.
Well, what happens if a person becomes too extreme in their individualistic ways and essentially breaks this social cohesion?
The point of the theory is to find common ground in the middle of the spectrum of individualism. If one becomes too individualistic, you must coach them back to conformity. Coaching them back helps them to stop differentiating themselves so much from the rest of society, and it decreases their egoistic thoughts.
So, to clarify, you still believe in individuality among thoughts, morals, and beliefs. However, one cannot become an extremist of individuality because they still have an obligation to society. Is this right?
That's exactly it, Chanel.
Lastly, to go along with the point of religion, you mentioned Christianity throughout your article in order to explain the transition into a more individualistic society. Can you please expand upon this?
Yes, that is correct. I specifically use Christianity in explaining the progression of individualism and not relating it to my religious theories. Christianity helps promote moral individualism. It switched the focus from the external into the internal, and it promoted a one-on-one relationship with God, without having to worry about the middleman, such as priests. Christianity made individuals accountable to only themselves and to God. Also, Christianity popularized the idea of a meritocratic system rather than inherited privileges. I, in fact, hate inherited privileges and wish to abolish them completely.
Thank you for such your powerful insight, Emile. I look forward to seeing your theory continually put into practice in the near future. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Chanel. Individualism is spreading and growing, and Durkheim believes it should continue to dominate. Because there's always room for progress, people can always revolt for their rights. Everyone is allowed to have their own ideas, beliefs, and thoughts, but still must maintain a relationship within society. According to Durkheim, we should embrace individualism. We should be morally educated and continue to expand on the system. This said, we should spread the word about individualism. Tell your friends, family, and teach your children. This will bring about new goals and achievements in our society. In other news, Bachelor Sean Lowe and Catherine Guiducci are happily engaged after this season's show and plan to have their wedding on TV as well. Also, Sean Lowe is participating in Dancing with the Stars. Now over to Candy with the weather report.
I am standing outside of Wilfrid Laurier University, and the weather out here is just outrageous. Temperatures below freezing with winds, rain, and snow are making the probability of students commuting to school very unlikely. At least this serves as an excuse for students to sleep in, even though we all know the real reason is due to last night's festivities. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you for tuning into Channel 4 News. I'm Lauren Bates. See you tomorrow. Stay classy, Wilfrid Laurier.